All right, so are you ready for this? This deep dive, we have Mustafa Suleyman,
Oh, wow.
the CEO of Microsoft AI.
Yeah.
And this isn't just your typical tech exec.
Right.
This guy's a little bit of a prodigy, son of a taxi driver and a nurse.
I did not realize that.
Co-founded DeepMind and then Inflection AI.
Wow.
And now he's at the helm of AI at Microsoft.
That's impressive.
We are going to go deep into his mind.
Okay.
His vision for the future of AI, pulling from a recent interview he gave at the Aspen Ideas Festival.
Sounds good.
It's a really interesting background too, right?
Yeah, it is. It's not your typical Silicon Valley story.
Exactly.
And I feel like you can see that different perspective in how he talks about AI.
Yes.
It's almost like he's seen both sides of the coin.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why this deep dive is so interesting.
Yeah.
Because he's not shying away from the big stuff.
Yeah.
Even the controversial stuff.
Absolutely.
Regulation, the fear of superintelligence, whether AI companies are, cutting corners with intellectual property.
Right.
And even, get this, the possibility of AI becoming emotionally intelligent.
It's fascinating.
Right. It's really heady stuff.
These are questions that go way beyond the technical.
Yes.
This is how AI is going to reshape our entire world.
Mm-hmm.
And he seems to be wrestling with that on a philosophical level.
I completely agree. Okay,
Okay.
so let's unpack this.
Okay.
Starting with where he sees AI today.
All right.
He says, we're just scratching the surface. Even with all these advancements that
Yeah.
we've seen,
Yeah.
he uses a baseball analogy,
Okay.
saying we're in the first inning of a 9-inning game.
Hmm.
What I thought was so insightful there
Yeah.
is that he's not just saying AI is young, it'll get better.
Right.
He's saying the rules of the game themselves could change.
Right. It could be a totally different ballgame by the 9th inning.
Exactly. So think about it. Just a few years ago, AI agents that can act autonomously,
Yeah.
or these large language models that can, hold a conversation,
Right.
those were practically science fiction.
Yeah.
And now they're commonplace.
They are.
So who knows what the next few innings will bring.
It's pretty wild to think about.
Now, obviously, when you talk about AI's potential, the fear of superintelligence creeps in.
Oh, of course.
This idea that AI will become so smart,
Right.
it'll surpass us,
Yeah.
maybe even pose a threat.
Yeah, it's a common fear.
So what does he think about that?
Well, he doesn't dismiss that fear.
Right.
He acknowledges the theoretical possibility, that we need to pay attention to the safety risks.
Mm-hmm.
But he makes a really crucial distinction.
Okay.
Superintelligence, it isn't something we should be obsessing over right now.
Okay.
It's not inevitable. It's not necessarily desirable. And it's certainly not imminent.
So instead of freaking out about some sci-fi doomsday scenario,
Exactly.
what does he suggest we focus on?
He keeps coming back to responsible development,
Okay.
ensuring AI safety,
Mm-hmm.
and crucially, he says, global governance.
Okay.
He really thinks we need to be proactive setting the right guardrails now
Yeah.
to steer AI in a direction that benefits everyone.
And this is where he gets really interesting.
Okay.
Because unlike a lot of tech leaders, he is pro-regulation.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
You don't hear that every day.
He says regulating powerful technologies is just essential.
Okay.
Like, think about car safety regulations. They led to seatbelts, airbags.
Yeah.
Those things didn't stifle the auto industry.
Right.
They made it better.
That's a good point.
And he even highlights the potential downsides
Okay.
of poor regulation.
Yeah.
Things that can stifle innovation or hinder competition.
Yeah.
So it's about finding that right balance.
That's a nuanced view.
It is. It's a very nuanced view.
I appreciate that.
Okay, speaking of nuance,
Yeah.
we have to talk about what happened recently at OpenAI.
Oh, yeah.
The folks behind ChatGPT.
Mm.
You had members of their own safety team quit
Right.
and publicly criticize the company's approach.
It was a big story.
It was. So what was going on there?
Well, you had those who were worried about the speed of AI development, and they were saying safety wasn't keeping pace.
Right.
And then you had others pushing back, saying that progress was actually slowing down because of data limitations.
Okay, so where does our CEO of Microsoft AI land in this whole debate?
Well, surprisingly, he kind of takes the middle ground.
Interesting.
He acknowledges that both sides have valid points,
Okay.
and he sees OpenAI's work on safety as sincere,
Right.
a real effort to deal with these complex challenges.
Mm.
But he also understands the concerns.
It's that balanced perspective again.
It is. It really.
He's recognizing the tensions in AI development,
Yeah.
this need to push boundaries,
Yeah.
but also make sure that things are safe.
Absolutely.
Now, while we're on the topic of AI doing things we don't totally understand, let's talk about hallucinations.
Okay.
Those moments where AI spits out incorrect or just nonsensical stuff.
Yeah, that can be a problem.
It is. It's a big problem,
Yeah.
especially when we're talking about trust.
Absolutely.
If AI is making stuff up, how can we rely on it?
Right.
But Suleyman makes a really interesting point here.
Okay.
He says we don't fully understand human consciousness either.
That's true.
So demanding perfect explainability from AI might be a little unrealistic.
Yeah, I like that.
Right.
It's like he's saying, hey, look, we all have our moments.
Yeah.
It's true, we do.
It made me think about how we learn to trust people,
Yeah.
not by demanding they explain their every thought,
Right.
but by observing their behavior, their track record.
Exactly, yeah.
Maybe we need to start approaching AI the same way.
That's a good point.
Right.
Trust isn't built overnight.
No.
It's earned through consistency.
Okay, this brings us to another tricky subject,
Okay.
intellectual property.
Yeah.
There's this growing concern that AI companies are stealing IP
Yeah.
by training their models on these massive data sets scraped from the internet,
Right.
which includes copyrighted material.
That's a problem.
It is. Where do you draw the line?
Yeah, where's that line between fair use and infringement?
Right. It's a debate that I think is only going to get more and more heated.
Absolutely.
Suleyman actually makes a distinction here,
Okay.
which I thought was important.
Yeah.
He says, using content from the open web, that's fair game.
Okay.
But scraping data from websites that specifically prohibit it,
Right.
that's where things get legally murky.
Yeah. It's a gray area.
It is. It's a total gray area. And the law is really struggling to catch up.
It really is.
Think about it. AI can now generate content that's basically indistinguishable from human-created work.
It's true. It's true.
So how do we protect creators' rights,
Right.
but also foster innovation in AI?
It's a tough question.
A huge question. It's the million-dollar
A
question.
$1 million question, yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about superintelligence, regulation,
Right.
OpenAI struggles,
Yeah.
hallucinations, the intellectual property problem.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. This is heady stuff.
It is. It is.
But I think what's so interesting is how he doesn't shy away from it.
No, he doesn't.
You know, he's really willing to engage with those tough questions,
Yes.
even when there are no easy answers.
He's really pushing the boundaries of this conversation.
He is. He's pushing the boundaries.
And he's forcing us to confront these really challenging questions
Yes.
about the future of AI and about
Step.
what it means to create intelligent machines.
And that's what makes him so interesting to listen to.
He really is.
So next up, we're going to dive into some of his predictions about the future of work and education.
Okay.
How is AI going to change the skills we need,
Right.
the jobs that we do, and the way that we learn?
I'm ready.
Buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride.
All right, let's do it. You know, this is where I think his insights get really practical for anybody listening
Yeah.
because AI is already changing the job market
Mm-hmm.
and it's only going to get more intense.
Right.
So what does that mean,
Right.
for students who are entering the workforce or people who are already in their careers?
Yeah, this is something people really worry about. Like, are robots going to take our jobs?
Of course.
Is college even worth it anymore?
Right?
What's the point of learning anything if AI can just do it all?
It's a valid concern. So what does he say about that?
Well, he doesn't give those easy answers
Right.
or
Okay.
platitudes,
Right.
But his advice for students,
Right.
which I think applies to anybody navigating this landscape,
Yeah.
is embrace lifelong learning.
Okay.
Develop adaptability and agility
Mm-hmm.
and stay open-minded.
So he's basically saying the future belongs to those who can learn and unlearn,
Yes.
constantly kind of evolving their skill set.
Yes. So it's not about just cramming information into your head.
No.
It's about being able to learn new things quickly, being able to pivot when industries change, and just staying curious.
Yeah, be curious, be a lifelong learner.
Exactly. And think about those skills that are uniquely human.
Yes.
Things like critical thinking, creativity, empathy,
Right.
really complex problem solving.
Those are things AI still struggles with.
Yes,
At least for now.
at least for now. And those are the skills that will set humans apart.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we need to be lifelong learners, adaptable, hone those uniquely human skills.
Yeah.
But what about right now?
Right.
What does that look like in practice?
Well, he doesn't advocate for throwing out traditional education. It's more about finding that balance, thinking of AI as a tool.
Yeah.
And a really powerful tool, but still a tool.
Yes.
So students, professionals can use it to become more efficient, to automate certain tasks, to gain insights from data.
Right.
But the key is to use those tools to enhance your own abilities.
Not to become dependent on it.
Exactly, not to replace your own thinking.
Right. It's like AI can help you write a report.
Yeah.
But you still need to understand the subject,
Of course.
analyze the information critically,
Right.
and then make sound judgments based on that information.
Absolutely. And that's where education comes in.
Yes.
It's not just about teaching facts anymore. It's about these critical thinking skills, encouraging creative problem solving, fostering collaboration and communication.
These are the skills that allow people to work alongside AI.
Exactly. Yeah. Leveraging the strengths.
Yeah.
Recognizing its limitations.
Okay, so education needs a revamp. Got it.
It needs a revamp. Yeah.
But, let's be real for a second.
Okay.
There's a lot of anxiety about AI.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, its potential to just disrupt entire industries.
Of course. Of course. And he doesn't shy away from that.
Okay.
He's not trying to sugarcoat those challenges.
Right.
But he also sees it as an opportunity,
Okay.
like a chance to rethink the way we work, to create new jobs, new industries that we can't even imagine yet.
So it's like instead of fearing the unknown,
Yeah.
embrace those possibilities.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like what new opportunities might emerge that we haven't even considered?
Right. Exactly. And, history is full of examples of technological disruption
Right.
that leads to new industries and opportunities.
Yeah, like think about the invention of the car.
Exactly.
It put carriage makers and blacksmiths out of business.
Right.
But then it created all these new industries.
Exactly. Yeah.
Car manufacturing, transportation, logistics, even tourism.
It's true.
So the key is to be prepared,
Yes.
be adaptable, and be open to those possibilities.
Be open.
Don't get stuck in the fear
Right.
of what you might lose,
Yeah.
but focus on what you might gain.
That's a great point.
Okay, and this ties back to what we were saying about lifelong learning.
It does. It really does.
The world is changing so fast,
Faster than ever.
and the only way to stay ahead is to just constantly be learning,
Yeah.
evolving, and adapting.
I completely agree. Nah.
Okay, so one thing that surprised me,
Yeah?
are you ready for this?
I think so.
He's actually really invested in the idea of emotionally intelligent AI. This isn't some sci-fi thing.
Right.
He co-founded this company called Inflection AI
Okay.
that created this AI called Pi that was specifically designed to be emotionally supportive and engaging.
So is it like a chatbot or?
It is. It's like a chatbot. But
Okay.
get this.
Okay.
Users reported that conversations with Pi felt more emotionally supportive than talking to some humans.
Really? Wow.
It's both fascinating and unsettling, right?
It is.
It makes you think about what even is human connection?
Right.
What role is technology going to play in our emotional lives?
It's a big question.
It is a really big question.
Like, are we headed towards a future where AI is our best friend
Right.
or our therapist?
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's wild to think about.
Well, he seems to think that AI can provide that kind of emotional support that's sometimes missing from human interactions.
I guess so.
Maybe it's because AI doesn't judge.
Oh.
It doesn't get impatient or tired.
Yeah.
It's always there to listen.
I see what you're saying.
It's interesting.
But then it makes you wonder,
Yeah.
what are the downsides?
Right. Are there downsides?
Like what happens when people become too reliant on AI for that support?
Right. What happens to human relationships?
Do they become less capable of forming real human connections?
Yeah.
It's a valid concern. It's like any powerful technology.
Yeah.
It can be used for good or for bad.
Exactly. It's all about how it's designed and how it's used.
And it comes down to responsible development, thoughtful design,
Yeah.
setting the right boundaries.
Absolutely. All right. So let's shift gears for a second
Yeah.
and talk about AI and democracy.
Okay.
This is where things get a little unnerving
Right.
because he talks about the risks of AI being used to influence elections,
Yeah.
especially with the rise of misinformation and deep fakes.
It's not a hypothetical threat.
No, it's already happening.
We've already seen it.
So Microsoft, under his leadership, has taken a strong stance against using AI for political campaigning or electioneering.
That's interesting.
They recognize that the technology has limitations,
Right.
the potential for misuse, and that this is a very sensitive area when it comes to democratic processes.
Absolutely. It's a bold stance,
It is. It really is.
especially in this era where,
Yeah,
technology and politics are getting more and more intertwined.
they really are.
So I respect that.
Yeah.
It's like a recognition that AI is powerful
Yeah,
and that power needs to be used responsibly.
absolutely.
But it also makes you wonder,
It does.
like what happens when other countries or other organizations
Yeah.
don't have those same ethical concerns.
Right, that's the challenge.
It's a tough one.
It requires international cooperation.
Yes,
Shared norms.
to make sure it's used for good and not for bad.
Exactly. And he calls for a kind of AI diplomacy,
Okay.
where nations can come together
Yeah.
and establish guidelines and guardrails.
But is that even realistic
Yeah, that's the question.
in this world that we live in?
It's tough. It's really tough, but the alternative is pretty terrifying.
It is, this AI arms race
Yeah.
where countries are competing to develop more and more powerful AI.
Right.
That could be really dangerous.
It's a scary thought.
And that's why I think his perspective is so valuable.
It is. It's very valuable.
He's not just a tech CEO.
Right.
He's someone who's really grappling with these issues.
Yeah.
The ethics, the social implications, the political implications.
Absolutely.
He's asking the tough questions.
Yeah.
He's pushing for responsible development.
He
Is
yes.
calling for global collaboration.
Yeah.
So he's not offering easy answers,
Yeah.
but he is starting a really important conversation.
He is. He's starting a conversation we need to be having.
And it's a conversation that we all need to be a part of.
Yes.
Because the future of AI isn't going to be decided by a few tech companies or governments.
It's up to all of us
It's up to all of us
to decide what we want that future to look like.
to decide what we want that future to look like.
So let's be informed.
Yes.
Let's be engaged.
And let's make sure that our voices are heard.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself.
All right. So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have. We've talked about work, emotionally intelligent AI, democracy.
But there's still more to explore.
There is. In the next segment, we're going to get into some of his more provocative ideas,
Okay.
including his thoughts on synthetic data
Right.
and AI's potential to address some of humanity's biggest challenges.
Okay. So we're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into the mind of Mustafa Suleyman,
Yeah.
the CEO of Microsoft AI.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. And, one thing that keeps coming back to me is take on regulation.
Yeah, it's a unique perspective.
It is. It's not something you hear every day from a tech leader.
No, not at all, especially when we're talking about something as potentially disruptive as AI.
Right. He sees regulation as a way to drive progress and build trust.
Yeah.
He uses that car analogy.
The car safety regulations, yeah.
Those didn't kill the auto industry. They made cars safer.
Right, and in the end, they made the industry stronger.
Exactly. So he's not talking about stifling innovation with red tape.
No, he believes that good regulation can actually create a level playing field,
Right.
set clear guidelines, and foster public confidence in AI.
Which is so important.
It is, but he also acknowledges the potential downsides.
Yeah. Poorly designed regulations could definitely stifle innovation.
Absolutely, they could hinder competition.
So it's about finding that balance, right?
Yeah, it is. It's about finding that sweet spot where you have regulations that are strong enough to address the risks, but flexible enough to allow for progress.
Exactly. So what areas does he think need that kind of attention?
Well, he points to data privacy, algorithmic bias,
Mm-hmm.
and the use of AI in sensitive areas like healthcare or law enforcement.
It makes sense.
He's worried about AI being used to discriminate against certain groups.
Right.
Or to erode individual rights.
So he's basically drawing a line.
Yeah, he's saying, look, we need to make sure that AI is used ethically and responsibly.
Yeah. Not to make existing inequalities even worse.
Exactly. He's pushing back against this idea that technology is neutral.
Yeah.
He's saying the values that we embed in AI systems are going to have real consequences.
And it's not just about setting rules and enforcing them.
Right. It's not a one-time thing.
He believes in ongoing dialogue.
Yeah, between policymakers, industry experts, and the public.
So that regulation is informed by a variety of perspectives.
And constantly adapting to this rapidly changing landscape.
It's a really dynamic approach.
It is. It acknowledges that we're all kind of figuring this out as we go.
Okay, so one thing that stood out to me was his talk about synthetic data.
Oh, yeah, that's a fascinating concept.
It sounds like it's straight out of science fiction.
It kind of is.
But he sees it as a way to unlock AI's potential while addressing some of the ethical concerns around real-world data.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
So for those who don't know, what is synthetic data?
So synthetic data is artificial data that's created to mimic real-world data.
Okay.
It can be generated using computer simulations, algorithms. You can even use video game engines.
So instead of training AI on real personal information, which raises all those privacy concerns,
Right.
you could train it on this virtual world of data.
Exactly.
But is it as good?
That's the big question.
Can AI really learn and adapt?
Well, he acknowledges that synthetic data needs to be very carefully designed and validated.
To make sure that it reflects the real world.
Otherwise, the AI might not perform well in real-life situations.
It's like training a self-driving car in a video game.
Yeah, perfect analogy.
It might pass the virtual test, but then crash in the real world.
Exactly, but despite the challenges, he sees synthetic data as a potential solution,
Okay.
for overcoming some of the limitations of real-world data.
Like what kind of limitations?
Well, think about scenarios that are really rare or dangerous
Okay.
to collect data in real life.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you could use synthetic data to train AI systems
Okay.
in those situations.
So like training an AI to diagnose a rare disease
Exactly.
or to respond to a natural disaster.
Without having to put people at risk.
Without putting real people at risk. That's a huge advantage.
It is, and think about reducing bias.
Yeah.
By carefully designing these data sets, we can control for those factors that might introduce bias into AI systems.
So we could actually create AI that's more fair and equitable.
That's the goal.
It's like using AI to create a more just world.
It's a powerful idea.
So after this deep dive into Mustafa Suleyman's thoughts, one thing is clear.
What's that?
This conversation is just getting started.
It really is.
He raised more questions than he answered.
He did, but that's not a bad thing.
No, it's good. It's a call to action.
It is. It's a challenge for all of us to really think critically about the future of AI.
And to ensure that this technology is used to benefit everyone.
Absolutely. The choices we make today will determine the kind of world we live in tomorrow.
So what's the one thing you want listeners to take away from this conversation?
I think the key takeaway is that the future of AI is not predetermined. It's up to us to shape it. And that means being informed, being engaged, and being willing to have those difficult conversations.
About the ethical and social implications.
About the future we want to create.
Well said. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been an enlightening journey into the mind of one of AI's leading thinkers.
He is a fascinating guy.
He is. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring this amazing world of AI